Good afternoon. This is the Torah on Parshas Vayakhel. Hill is the Parshas after Kitese, which was last week's Parsha, which included, among other things, the Egel Sahab, the golden calf, and Moshe begging for forgiveness, which is also apropos and relevant to this week's Parsha. And it says, ויקהל משה את כל עדה בני ישראל. ויאמר להם, אלו דברים אשר ציווה השם לעשות אותם. As he assembled the entire assembly of the children of Israel and said to them, these are the things that Hashem commanded to do them. Now, that is how it begins. Before we get that, to give a brief summary, it's the Parsha is dealing with Moshe's announcement of them that there's going to be a Mishkan sanctuary and what needs to be contributed to for it. And it tells about how all the people brought all the materials necessary, and the rest of the Parasha is primarily dealing with Batzel and others, how all the things for the Mishkan sanctuary were built. Now, what I would like to focus on is the first few words, first pasuk I just read. Now, why does it have to say that Moshe assembled the entire congregation, the entire assembly? He's done that before. They were assembled at the time of Matan Torah. They were assembled after that. Why is this one specifically given out to explain? And first of all, let's look at what day this was. This was Mosas Yom Kippur. This was the day after Yom Kippur. Moshe had come down the day before with the second set of Seros Libros, 10 Commandments and 2 tablets with the 10 Commandments on them. And he came down, and this is the next day. After all, Hashem forgave us for this horrible sin of the Eagle's golden calf. Now, that being the case, it leaves a bit of a Shaila question of why does, since they were assembled yesterday, why, when they saw him come down from Har Sinai, why did they need another mention of an assembly the next day? And this is a question asked by the Orach Chaim HaKodesh, and he brings a very interesting answer. One of the answers, he gives me a number of answers, but the one I'd like to focus on is the following. Why? Because the people were embarrassed to come see him. Why? Because people had just seen Moshe's skin. It was radiant, and they feared to approach him, as we explained in last week's Parsha. He therefore had to really go out to assemble them, to hear the word of Hashem, and that they shouldn't fear of approaching him. That's why he says, this is why Moshe says specifically that Moshe gathered the entire assembly. Now, what is this radiance of Moshe's face that we're talking about here? And it's talking about the Karen aura, or which means literally the horn of light. Now, there's a big question on this whole story. So what happened? What happened the day before? He came down on Yom Kippur. He his face literally shone. Now, he did not know it was shining because he knew there was some kind of light on his face, but he assumed it was from being in front of Hashem. Hashem had showed him a bit of his glory, and on top of it, there was the light of the two tablets themselves, which Hashem, the second set Moshe had to make, carve, but Hashem still wrote on them, and that raises miraculous lettering, and that raises a question of, excuse me, of why didn't he know that that there was a light on his face, shining from his face, because he thought, first of all, his glory being up in Har Sinai. Now, according to the Or HaChaim, he brought the Luco to two tablets all the way down, and he thought the light was coming from the tablets. Only when he got down did he finally realize that his face glowed, with his whole skin illuminated, and that is the question. Why? So he had to his face was full of light. Now, there's a few questions to address here. Why? First of all, what does that mean? What kind of light are we talking about? Second of all, why were they afraid to see him? And why did he have to wear a mask? Now, I'm going to explain that with a couple of different commentaries. One of them is the Or HaChaim himself. And his face became radiant, the skin of his face became radiant, they feared to approach him. Now, where was this light from? What kind of light was being shining upon him? It was what was called the organuz. Now, the organuz was a special spiritual light which had to be concealed because of the sin of Adam and Chava eating from that fruit. And the human race started declining rapidly after that. Now, there's a question on that, too, of first of all, what kind of war was it? And where did it get concealed afterwards? It got concealed in the Torah. And the deeper somebody learns Torah, they will access a bit of that light and will get deep insights into the Torah. Some of the greatest rabbis had incredible insights based on that. But why couldn't they look at him? Everybody been getting from the sin of the eagles of the golden calf. And according to some, the light was coming from the sparks of Hashem, as transmitted through Moshe's face. But the Or HaChaim gives a deeper explanation than that. And he explains that what was going on here was that this supernal light, which has been hidden since the sin of the eagles, was coming out. Now, to do that, one bee had to be at the level of Adam and Chava before they can eat from the fruit, before they committed that sin. Now, if one looks at that, what had happened at the time of the transmission of the Torah, we were free of sin, as I explained in the previous Devar Torah, and we were totally righteous at that time. When Hashem gave us the Torah, all our physical and emotional defects were cured, and we reached the level of Adam Akava before that. So we were entitled to the supernal light. In fact, Hashem came down and in fire on the Sinai when the Torah was given. Yet all the Jews were able to look at that, and that was immensely more powerful than what Moshe had. And all that was taken away from them when they committed the sin 40 days later of the sin of the Egel Sahab, the golden calf. And they will again have a Yetzer Hara. They were then put into that position. And with one exception. Who was that one exception? It was Moshe. And one explanation that's given. So, but where was this light? What is this light? He said it's the organisms, but it goes beyond that. Lokheim explains. As the Midrash said that it was the many ink in the pool with which Moshe wrote down certain parts of the Torah. But Orach Chaim gives another explanation. That the crown had been bestowed on Adam before the sin was restored to its original glory with God's delicious face. Now, how do we understand that? This is in accordance with what was said in Bereshit Rabbah, and it says, "B'sefer shel Rabbi Meir Katsum the Talmud Or said that an Hashem made for Adam garments of skin that were garments of light." Now, the word "or" can be spelled two ways. It can be spelled "or" Aleph Vav Resh, which means the skin, and "or" Aleph Vav Resh, which means light. Now, their bodies contained a soul, gave off an incredible light. They were enwrapped in light. Now, yet, despite that, Moshe had gone back up to that level. Bottom. No, instead of the light being in his whole body, it's shone. Now, let's look a little deeper at that. It says in the story about Adam and Chava that after they committed the sin, God made him a garment of ore. Now, this wasn't a piece of clothing, and as explained by the Zohar, there was something deeper going. Before we committed the sin, when I say we, Adam and Chava, thereby the whole human race, followed from that. They were made purely of various spiritual matters from the various higher worlds. And for example, it says they were Aether. They were made from earth, dirt. That's why I named Adam. Adamah was not Adamah as we understand, not soil as we understand it. It was soil surrounding the base. The base of Mikdash is not only the sanctuary, the first temple, the spiritual temple, and the next world up, which is Yetzirah formation, and therefore they were all made of light and spiritual materials that surrounded that encased their soul. Hashem, only when they committed the sin did Hashem then transfer it to a skin of ore. Meaning skin, it meant giving them flesh. Because light was removed, their body, their souls, and their organs had to be encased in something, so they were given flesh. So for Moshe's face, as explained by the Midrash in Rabbi here, he interpreted that originally God gave them garments of skin that these were garments of light. In other words, they had a spiritual light encompassing the body. Only afterwards it had to be physical. And that also explains something else. Why does it say that Moshe had Keren Or, which means one of light? Now that led, it could have said his face was lit up. He had a face of light, radiant light. Why did it use this meaning, which, by the way, caused one of the biggest anti-Semitic cliche tropes through the centuries, that Moshe had horns, and by extension, all Jews had horns. The term was light. It was a horn of light, not horns. Now, why didn't they just use the word oro, which they could have very easily used? And it was going to teach us something else, that the Egel Zahav, the golden calf, which had led to our downfall, it was a reminder that despite our downfall, Moshe managed to get to the level where he got forgiveness for the whole people. That's one lesson that's taught. Another lesson that is explained by the Ramban and one of the commentaries of one of the students, Mara Anayim, on the Parashat, which was Rebbe Yusuf Delman Vaco, from the time in the 1300s in Spain. He explained that what was also going on, it reminded the people that what there was the hate of the Egel Zahav. And where did that come from? That came from the dark forces, somehow the Yetzer Hara. Shin Mem, the Samak members is usually known. And this horn of light is why the word was used to remind them, A, of the sin they committed, and B, that he transcended it and achieved great success. And if one looks a little deeper, when you have the image of Yehezkel Ezekiel, when he saw the chariot of fire, there were 4 angels supporting it, and one of the faces on those angels was that of a shore of a bull, saying so that Moshe went away from the sin of the Egel Zahav, neutralized it, he never committed it, performed it, elevated, went to such an elevation that he got forgiveness from Hashem for the sin, and he was at that level that, in other words, he represented the positive. In other words, that emulated and is an indication of reaching the level of that chariot fire, which, by the way, we had seen images of and got exposed to on the day the Torah was given. And it's now, this is in addition to what the commentary here of the Ramban and the student, is that he had reached that level. Now, it also teaches us that the people could therefore not face him, because that mentioning of the shore will not only embarrass them, it reminded the sin of Egel Zahav, and it also created a tragic thing for them, because as the Ohr HaChaim explains, they were singed. First of all, they were embarrassed. Second of all, it singed them. Now, when it says singe, it doesn't mean singe usually means they're slightly burned. It's talking about something else here. It's talking about how we realized what Moshe had achieved and what we could have achieved. And even if we didn't get to Moshe's level, we could have definitely been able to see his light and the light of that light. Now, as Midrash explains, even with that light, that they couldn't face Moshe, there was one antidote to that. When the people were studying Torah, they were able to look at that light, because that elevated them. And it shows the more, even today, that we immerse ourselves in Torah and the mitzvahs to come from the Torah, we'll be able to start seeing more and more revelations and rise above the day-to-day sins. Maybe we all have a year of growth spiritually as we are getting close to Pesach. And then 3 weeks from Motzei Shabbos this week, and then the Shavuos, we're going to get Matan Torah. May we all have a year of spiritual growth. Good Shabbos and Shabbat Shalom.